owned a house up on 5 blocks away. That we went and cut a tree down and put a mirror. And John could look into the mirror and see that house, which was his daughter was living in. Yeah, so it was fun. Good. No, I'll let it come.
And where did you live when you were over there?
Where did I live?
Yeah.
We lived in 162nd in Gresham on Powell.
But when you were in Coos, just being from there,
Pardon?
when you lived in Coos, where did you live down there?
In Coos Bay?
Yeah.
I lived in Empire. Charlie.
Oh, okay, cool.
Cool. Yeah, that's why I never had. I have one set of clothes. Flannel long sleeve shirts.
It was there, now it's gone.
Eugene, I figured out you could wear short sleeve shirts.
Well, it worked for,
Seconds.
Yeah.
All did.
there's back,
Is it-
the
What was it last time that was, oh,
Wi-Fi.
did they purchase the new hardware?
I'm
that was-
gonna presume so. We got a full signal in here, so that's all,
There you go.
looks like it's taken care of. So, for that part of it anyway. All right. Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday, September 3rd, 2024 at 10 a.m. If you will please stand and join me for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I hadn't heard anything from Commissioner Shellman. I wonder if she forgot we were doing today.
We changed it for her.
I'm gonna give her a quick phone call and.
There's some stuff going around too. Some people aren't feeling well lately.
Hello, this is Bill. Yeah. It's fair week. All right, well, we have a quorum. If you're not available, that's fine. I just wanted to double check. Okay, we don't have a whole lot on the agenda. Old business, I think Holly had talked to you about some strategic planning. We had it on here just for discussion. Okay, so we'll table it for next county court. That topic, there's just some discussion here, but the BEAD grant, Commissioner Doro should have most of the information, or we can just discuss it, whatever we need to do there. Okay, well, we can have more discussion on it though, too. And then, new business, landfill meeting summary. We had a landfill meeting last week with the landfill attendants. So just kind of a summary on how that went, what we discussed is all, and then resolution for deflection funds. Moving funds around and creating some personnel services lines. Well, yeah, but when we got it and receipted it in, we didn't have the full, we didn't know completely what we were gonna do with it. Yeah. Yep. So that's all we have on the agenda anyway. So, we'll kick. Okay. So, we'll talk to you later then. I just wanted to touch base with you before we went on. Okay, alrighty. Take care. Have a good week. Bye. So it will be the two of us. Where record shows Commissioner Doro, Judge Hart present, Commissioner Shellman was absent, and we have a quorum and we shall carry on. So. Late items, any late items for the agenda?
No, during general deliberations, I'll catch up on a bunch of topics, but not anything for an agenda item.
Okay. Agenda approval.
I move to approve today's Harney County Court meeting agenda.
And I'll second. Motion's been made and second to approve today's agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed, and hearing none, motion carries. Department updates, District Attorney Hughes is present. Have you got? Want to tell us how what the DA's office is up to?
What the DA's office is up to, I mean, you kind of say same old, same old. One of the things that one of the bigger issues that we're currently facing is we still have the open deputy DA position. I was going to get a hold of Deanna this week about communicating with you about reposting that position. It's been vacant since end of January. So that's just, we had one applicant last spring. Coincidentally, he was from Iowa also, but he had not taken the Oregon State Bar. The state of Oregon has now, in my opinion, lessened the qualifications to be a member of the bar. You don't have to take the bar exam if you do a mentoring program. My current position is that I do not want to consider applications that have not taken the Oregon State Bar. But I'm saying that now 6 months into this, ask me in 6 months, I may weaken my position. I know John Lamborn, he has an individual that he has from Arizona that is kind of trying to become a member of the Oregon State Bar via that route. So just need to communicate with Deanna about reposting that. And recently I had sent her some postings from other counties. The purpose of my sending those was just to kind of keep her apprised. Our HR, I guess I should say our HR department, I shouldn't say specific names. Our HR department kind of apprised of what the going rate is for those types of positions. The kind of big things with the district attorney's office, I would say currently we have 3 cases currently charged that I think would be of significant public interest, or that I have people inquiring about over the last year. 2 of those have been set for trial, which that kind of late winter, early spring, one of them got set for trial. And then another one got set. We're trying to set it for the beginning of July. And so I need to communicate with the court to see if that July 1, if those dates work. We have to communicate with the state medical examiner to see if the doctor can be available for that. But that would be set over 3 weeks at the beginning of next year, July. The other one that is particular public interest that was set, I forgot my phones at home today, which that will help my productivity today. But so I can't get to the dates of the other one, that are set late winter, early spring, but that will be a week-long trial. One of them is still kind of out in plea offer stage, so we'll see what happens with that particular case. The only other thing, and I kind of heard you talking with Commissioner Shellman about is the deflection program. We're still trying to get that implemented. As of September 1, some hard drugs have become a crime again, only a misdemeanor. They didn't go back to a felony level. And so I kind of discussed it during the budget. Probably that wasn't really the appropriate forum for me to be discussing it, but it kind of came up and just naturally happened during that time. The idea of the deflection program is that individuals, I mean, I can just anecdotally think of individuals that we've prosecuted over and over and over again. And just traditional prosecution does not seem to be changing their behavior. So the idea of deflection is maybe to try and engage these people with service. My tune has kind of changed over the last 5 or 6 years on my thought of services. Years ago, I used to just kind of think, just get your act together. Come on, just do it. But let's face it, some people do need services. And so the idea is that law enforcement would have contact with these individuals and they would get directed towards cemetery care prior to there being DA's office involvement. I mean, the DA's office would be involved in the sense that the deflection program is housed in the district attorney's office, but we also don't want the individuals that are having contact have the perception that they are interacting with the district attorney's office. So yes, the funds are flowing through the district attorney's office, but we don't want to, it's supposed to be avoiding the criminal track. And if one thinks about it, in the long run, that there is potential cost savings for everyone involved. I mean, because just prior to coming down here, I was reading a police report and getting ready to charge it. And just kind of what went through my mind was this is going to enlist a lot of resources, obviously law enforcement is already involved with it. The district attorney's office has already been involved with it at some point. But if the district attorney or deputy DA does make a charging decision, that then enlists a whole other gamut of resources. I mean, then you're starting to trigger, the court involvement at that point, which, all of us in the community have, that does, our general taxes, that affects that. But I think where you really do see the cost add up when we're charging levels of crimes like that are when the public defense gets appointed. That's when I think we all really start feeling the, kind of on the back. It's diffused among the state, but there is a significant cost there. One of the things that I think about to kind of move back to the deputy district attorney position, and I guess I feel it more personally now, and even though I personally feel, I think it does affect the community in a way. I don't want to call them lower level crimes because they affect the community and they affect a victim, and so to the victim, it is a significant, crime was broken and it's important to the victim. So I don't ever want to become like a larger county where we say that's not worth our time or resources. Assuming we get the deputy DA position filled, I think Harney County does have the resources to try and prosecute those crimes. But where I was going with this, with those levels of crimes, prosecuting a C misdemeanor, an offensive I'll just say I was just reading offensive littering where an individual emptied their septic tank onto somebody's property and I hear, Deanna, I'm like, I read it and I was disgusted. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm charging this. And, it's a C misdemeanor, and that enlists a lot of time and resources, but I agree with her. I'm like, I don't want that happening in the community that I live in. But where it really does start to take a toll on the office is if that matter gets set for trial. That takes an all-day trial. I have a felon in possession of a firearm case that's currently being going through, and we're having our second motion to suppress on it. I don't know why that's being allowed, but it is. I have to write a response on that that's due, today or tomorrow, and then I have the hearing on Monday. That's where it really starts pulling on the office, where you have these 3 very significant cases in the hopper, but your attention's getting pulled away to these other types of issues, which I agree. I'm not saying to the public that it's worth my time, but there is a toll on it in other ways. So that's where I would like to chat. I meant to send an email yesterday or Sunday saying I would like to get together this week.
Where you were at.
Yeah,
Yes.
about the deputy DA
Yeah.
position and what we can do and see, because bar results should be coming out here in the next couple of weeks. But I'll just say kind of across the state, a lot of the DA's offices in I guess I'd say more easily accessible counties. I was just talking to Judge Baxter. His son is actually the DA up in Baker County. They can't get a position filled up there. They've had it open for a while, and that's right on 84 and easy access to other places. So I'll be interested to see if we can get somebody. So those are kind of the big, so those are kind of the big things. If anybody has any questions, I guess I can.
The process to become a member of the bar in the state of Oregon, are there any other states that have similar processes?
The only one that I'm aware of, just because it was proximity, was Wisconsin. But Wisconsin's rule was you didn't have to take the bar there if you went to law school in Wisconsin and maintained a B average. That was so they had a very high retention of their graduates for that. Wisconsin does other things for, even their undergrad, but they recruit a lot of, anyway, they just do kind of a lot of things that way that kind of keep people there. There is reciprocity that if an individual has been practicing, say, in Idaho for 5 years, they can then waive into Oregon. So there is reciprocity that you don't have to take the bar in certain states, but different states have different number of years that you have to be practicing in your, home state before you can, move over laterally to another state.
I'm
So-
aware way back in 1979, when I was brand new second lieutenant, and some of the Marine Corps lawyers in my initial class were the state of Mississippi did not require you to pass the bar back then. I don't know if that's still the case, but that at that time was sort of the only one that, at least that lawyer told us about. He was from Mississippi.
Yeah, I don't personally agree with it. There's a bunch of topics you have to study for the Oregon State Bar exam. Like one of mine was secured transactions. And I couldn't tell you anything about some secured transactions, but I crammed that information in my brain for that test. And I guess I kind of view it, life as a series of tests. Every time you go up to trial, you're kind of being put to the test. So, I like to see people pass at least some sort of standardized test to show that, like, okay, you could buckle down for a while and do that. But
I don't like to see it either, but I just wondered if this is all kind of the result of our education system over the years now, what it takes to graduate and all that has gone downhill.
I could get into, I agree with you, Commissioner Toro, that it's like,
Ugh.
I think it is, they're lowering the bar in literally in this situation, or, the state bar, not physically, but, and that cost is being pushed onto society, because you can potentially see people complain that they didn't get good representation. Just because you pass the bar doesn't mean you're going to be a good attorney, but there is something to it. I think they're also kind of finding that there's not as many people who are willing to go to law school. It was a significant amount of personal debt that people take on, and you're out of the workforce. for 3 years, so there's that opportunity cost there that you lose while you're also going into the hole, so. I think there's a lot of reasons why they're doing it, so we'll see. In Oregon, I mean, even when I did have a deputy DA, most of his classmates wanted to be defense attorneys, not prosecutors. Like when I was in school, and there wasn't that much of a shift. I mean, most people if they were gonna be in the criminal world, they wanted to be prosecutors. So I think it just kind of goes with the whole defund the police and all that type of stuff. I think it even kind of trickled into that sphere also, so.
I appreciate your comments and questions about that. I was just curious. What is the best way for a citizen who might want to observe a trial for them to double check that the dates and times have stayed the same, or should they just go on to what's the system?
It's OECI. That is if they wanna watch a trial. And also, I mean, I know the court monitors, put them up there when there is trial. I mean, I don't want our office to start kind of being like, is a trial going to be held, things along those lines. I would encourage people to come and watch a trial. Just because more goes into it than I think people realize, and the public kind of laments that, well, something isn't being done, well, then they actually watch a trial and they're like, well, I'll tell you, I had one recently that the jury came back split. But I actually thought, I'm like, that was the appropriate verdict. I mean, I don't think I made a poor charging decision, but just the way the facts came out in the trial, I was like, yeah, I see that. Probably if I would have been on that jury and even with me prosecuting the case, I would have agreed with that verdict if I was back in the room, just with how the facts came out.
What does OECI stand for?
Oh my gosh, the org, that's the state courts
Okay.
system.
That's fine. I'll look at it.
And I hate using acronyms like that, or I hate it when people use them, and there I just used one. But yeah, that would give the schedule.
And the final thing I had is, regarding the topic of deflection, et cetera. We had, juvenile department director Hatley here last county court, and one of the things in the minutes was that she explained a number of things, but she explained there are informal and formal probation cases. Informal probation cases indicate that a formal petition is not filed in court. In these cases, youth enter into a formal accountability agreement, which takes place over 6 to 12 months. The benefit of completing the accountability agreement is that the infraction is removed from their record. At any point, if the individual violates the terms of the agreement, the petition may be filed, et cetera. It sounded to me like kind of a deflection kind of a thing.
Mhm.
So I didn't know, I'm sure you are aware of what they do, but is that kind of what we're talking about?
It'd be very similar, in the adult realm. The idea would be if we had a couple meetings with Cemetery Care. Hardy County, we used to have, through the circuit court, we used to have a treatment court. That became not a good option to handle cases. I'll just leave it at that. Because I don't think there's enough clear benchmarks, for the treatment court program. And in all honesty, I mean, the public looks at the law enforcement and the district attorney's office, say, what are you doing about crime, type thing. So I think on a treatment court, you have to have your district attorney and your law enforcement kind of on board with it. Same with the deflection program. One of the things that I specifically wanted with the deflection program was very, very clear benchmarks, for these individuals who are involved with controlled substances. I don't think it should be a gray line. I mean, I think it should just be a very clear standard. You have to get engaged or contact a treatment provider within X number of days. Not, okay, you have this general window, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I'll just tell you personally, I'm somebody that needs hard deadlines. I mean, not, you need to get this
Well,
done.
we're talking about a population who has trouble with stuff that doesn't have very firm.
So I have a similarity with that population then. So I guess I'll just.
No,
tell you,
I
but-
agree with you. I mean, Get her done.
get it done. And so if they don't meet that bench, I mean, and it'll be very clear and explained to them that, you know, if you don't hit that benchmark, the case is gonna go to the criminal track. But I am concerned about where the criminal track, how it's gonna go, because they have, in my opinion, a significant number of bites at the apple that will enlist more of the district attorney's office's resources with, you know, they can enter a deferred adjudication, and then if they don't successfully complete the deferred adjudication, it then still goes down the traditional criminal process, which they can still file a motion to suppress, they can still send it for trial and all those types of things. Those things that used to make deferred adjudications kind of like a quicker resolution, like you can opt for this. You don't have all of these other options on the back end. They're still getting all those options on the back end. So I kind of see the look on your face. I kind of agree that that's where
Well, I
it will
mean,
create a lot more work on our end.
part of me was thinking, well, I know when during the budget process and we were talking about this stuff, I sort of was like, maybe we shouldn't take the money and do it, but you still have to do stuff, right? I mean, whatever works best.
Well, and that's.
I mean, that's how I look at it. If you say we can do it and it should look this way, and I've talked to people, great. But how long is that money going to come in? Should we just continue to march as best we can without it?
And that's something, I think, you and I were kind of on the same page when you made that reference during the budget meeting. I mean, I think you and I are on the same page with the idea of, it's frustrating when we have these unfunded mandates from the state, you know, that, you know, the county has to bear the cost of it. You know, there's a lot of things through the DA's office that we have to do, that it's like, well, now we have to do that. That's another cost to the district attorney's office. That was one of my concerns with this deflection program too. So I did not want us to get to a point that we're dependent on these funds. You know, that creating whole new positions out just because we have the money, creating a whole new position. Because then depending on what happens with the money at the end of it, then you're looking at somebody with their bare face hanging out being like, well, sorry, we don't have this money anymore. Your whole position's going bye-bye. But what I do think is also going on with this deflection program is one of the benefits that I saw of it is there was really no parameters on what could be done with the funds. And part of my thought with that is if we tried establishing something that works for Harney County and with the funds that were provided, that as they're developing their best practices, that we have some influence on that, where I think if we didn't take it and they ended up just saying, well, this is what's coming down from the state, then we have to take what they said. What I think they're doing, and there's been comments made at some of the budget things that I've listened to, that they haven't established the best practices yet. So it's probably gonna be like a little bit of like a Hunger Games, that they're gonna be like, well, let's see what works for each one of the places. And I think it will be a situation that they're gonna see plans that come out of the smaller rural counties that work for the rural counties and the ones that come out of the larger counties. I mean, I know Sheriff Jenkins and I went to symposium or whatever they called it up in Salem. And, you know, you saw like what Marion County was doing. It's like, there's no way we don't have the population for it. We wouldn't have the number of cases to justify that type of resource and program. So I didn't want us to become dependent on the money, but I also thought if we got in there and demonstrated how we used it, if it worked for us, that long-term could have a positive influence for similarly sized counties when they do start saying, okay, you can choose one of these types of plans to use the money, that ours kind of help influence
That's
that
good.
future plan.
That's good.
So,
I just know I've seen news articles lately, Union County, there was a big article about their program that they just kicked off and, then I don't know, one of those emails you get, Oregon Catalyst or whatever, where it says that the big question will be, since counties are doing it experimentally, if you will, pilot program, if you will, that there will be inequities, all that stuff, but, some of those counties, even like a Union County, their general fund is healthier than ours, and they can, help with it as well, whereas we can't really.
Yeah,
So that's
No.
the tough part.
I get that.
No, thank you. I
No, no
think your thinking's very sound.
Was there anything,
Nope.
any other questions?
Nope, I don't have anything. Unless
Okay.
you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, that's it.
Sounds like you're doing a great job with a lot of workload, and hope maybe we can get you
I hope
deputy
so
one of
too.
these days.
I'll chat with you this week.
Yeah.
All right, take care, guys.
Thank you.
It was good seeing you.
Next department update is human resources. Deanna, well,
I forgot, I did gotta take a couple things, which the first you asked me about, and I can't remember, do you remember what I told you? That they were estimating
You
going
said
down?
5%.
Okay,
That, now you're saying that you're hearing through your channels that next year's county
Every-
contribution
every
to
2 years. yeah.
hers is may go up 5%.
That's what they're estimating right now, but I've seen that it's usually not what they're estimating this time of the year, it's usually less. Historically, but that doesn't necessarily mean, but that's what they're estimating right now is about 5%.
Okay.
Increase, which is,
and last year, I think they were estimating 6%, and it ended up going 3.5 or something like that.
yeah, I mean, yeah, cause I think for just officer last time, it was like 16 something, it was estimated to jump up to like 21. And it landed at like 18.76 or something like that, so. I'm gonna guess it's not gonna be quite 5%, but it's gonna increase for sure, so. I am working on updating the handbook. From CIS's template, we're moving to CIS's handbook. So the last time I did it off of theirs, but very customized. And things weren't the same as what CIS had in the same order. Well, I'm moving to CIS's handbook. It will make it easier in the future to do updates because they will send out updates and then I can just go in and fix it and then I don't have to spend so much time updating it.
And side note there too, again, if it's an issue that CIS as our insurer is going to represent us in a labor issue. If our handbook is pretty much coincides with their recommendations, then
They'll be able to defend us,
easier, yeah, or better.
which we had just that particular case in a little hearing the other day. The attorney had me read two policies out of our handbook. And because it was worded by CIS attorneys, we now okay on it. Pay equity is they're still working on it. I mean, they're estimating 6 months and we're about 3 in now, so they email me every now and then and ask questions. But they're still, it's all in their hands at this precise moment, so.
You're talking about the wage and pay scale.
Yeah.
Work, and did you feel like the job descriptions provided were where they needed to be?
I updated them last August, between August and October, I had them done from what I had. Now, there's still a couple of holdouts that have still never given me job descriptions, so, I can only do so much off of what I'm
And
given,
we've talked to those holdouts.
yes, and,
And even in their first review of the job descriptions, they sent out a list of questions that we sit down and went through. For instance, some job descriptions have the word supervise. And they're not supervisory positions.
Right.
They're
Right.
lead positions, but they're not supervisory positions. So we had to clean up some of
That's
the
good.
language in some
That's
of them.
some language, there's some ORSs, some of them have added that aren't even legitimate ORSs. We actually never went through, so that kind of stuff will be coming out. They're looking at driver's licenses. It may say required, but there's nothing up here in the meat of the job description that actually requires them to go drive. So all that kind of stuff is
Right.
being looked at.
Good.
So, we will be looking at insurance options, this year. So hopefully by, well, we know by October, by July of next year, we'll have something in place, for 2026, I guess. One way or the other, because we have to make those choices. Whether we continue to go CIS or not, we have to make those choices in July, so.
CIS, and this was one thing that I didn't understand, why cities, because it's city, county insurance. Why city entities, municipal entities got better insurance than county entities. And, so I called here a while back, I called Patrick Priest, the director of CIS. And I asked him about that and asked him what what they were doing within CIS to potentially, offer us or be able to offer us the counties some better coverage. Cheaper, still quality, but it costs less for the employees.
Or even if we got cities rates.
Yeah.
They're a lot better than county rates.
So that was my question. I was like, why don't counties get the same rates as cities? They have two different trust funds. They have a city trust fund and a county trust fund. The city trust fund has about $124 million in it. And the county trust fund has, I want to say, if I remember right, around $34 million. So all claims, all health care claims are supposed to be paid out of your premiums and your co-pays and everything. But there are sometimes health crises that exceed those amounts. So then when it exceeds the amounts of the co-pays and the deductibles, then they have to dip into the trust fund. Otherwise, the trust fund hopefully doesn't get touched. There was some talk in the past couple of years about joining the cities and counties into one trust fund, and then we would potentially get the same rates as the cities get. But the cities were reluctant to do that because they were afraid that the counties then might be a drain on their trust fund and have claims. But in reality, in the past year, from talking to Mr. Priest, the cities have had some major claims that have had to dip into their own trust fund. So it's something that they would like to do and be able to standardize between cities and counties, but it's a matter of getting everybody to buy off on it. That's one option. If they do that, that's one option that could potentially get the county employees some better insurance rates. If that's not gonna work, then it's time to go out on the market and start hunting for insurance that we can afford and give some better opportunity or better option for our employees.
I pulled some other counties on what they're doing, and there's some that have just said, don't go with this company. But they've had some major issues or just they're not covering them when it comes down to the end. But, we would like to potentially, if we can, do a couple of different options, maybe an HSA account and a copay account, if we can work that out. Because right now, if we were to do that, and we can't do that both rates go up if you offer more than one. So take a look and see if that's a possibility of having some other options. And so
I'm gonna stay in touch with Mr. Priest and find out where they're at with that, because I see a benefit to both entities. If you have a larger pool of people that are paying into the same trust, and potentially rates could go down for everybody, even more so, not just county, but city and county, if you put more people into that buying power. So that's would be the easiest way, and hopefully that the cities will see that.
Do you know if other counties, i.e. county judges or chairs of boards of commissioners, if that's something you all talk about in some of your AOC forum that you participate in?
I don't recall from last year's.
Which would that be governance? The governance one, governance, revenue,
No.
and
No,
do you participate in that one?
Yeah, but
generally?
it wouldn't be governance, because this is all internal to CIS.
No, revenue. I'm talking about at AOC level, their steering committees,
Mhm.
to at least see if the other counties are generally in agreement of that, or if they would fight against it, because sometimes you think they'd all be okay, and then you got some
Yeah.
powerful ones that don't.
I'll check with AOC, but I don't think that would be within AOC's purview, though, because like I'm saying, this is not a legislative issue. It's
Well, ask.
there's some, there's other commissioners and judges that are on the board at CIS So that might be,
John Schaefer,
might be something to check into as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Speaking of AOC, I'm going to AOC this year. Cheryl from the River County's got a pretty good agenda for us, so calling in a few people, so we're gonna go do that in November. We have some heat and smoke training coming up that we're supposed to be doing. I pulled other counties and I haven't had one back that has actually been doing it, but it's a OSHA requirement, so we're gonna push forward to do it. There's like 10 points of topics that have to be done, and on both of them. I talked to CIS Learning Center and they have set up, I have a group set up, all my new employees have to do training, so cybersecurity harassment training. They will now do the 6 points of heat and smoke training. And we need to come up with a smoke policy of what the county wants to happen when air quality levels are at certain points. So the other 4 pieces are what the county's policy will be. So we need to work on that. And then FEMA training for Melinda. According to her grant, all employees have to be trained in FEMA for her to be in compliance with her grant. So we've been working on that. And I think I have it.
Are there online options for that training?
It is all online.
Okay,
And there's four FEMA trainings that everybody has to have. All new employees have had to have it since September of last year. And then, so getting other employees that are currently on staff to do it has been.
we may not have enough, new hires and in a way to make this something that's a good idea, but some places, when a person's hired, they sometimes have a policy. Their first day will always be a Monday or a Tuesday or something like that, and then the HR person has it blocked out in their week. 9 to noon is the onboarding, training, and they can sit right there and start some of their online stuff they gotta do.
Josephine
and all that.
Jefferson does
But
that.
I know
2.5
some
days.
places that's an efficient way to.
Yeah.
To catch a lot of things, and I see that in our last county court meeting, the topic of the safety committee that Chad Angel will be heading up. Or does head up, and that CIS is gonna be sending a risk manager to give a safety 101 class, so.
Yeah.
Where do you intersect with
I-
that kind of stuff?
I chatted with the risk manager and she's not quite moved here yet. So I think she's supposed to be moving here and fully on board by this month. So I know that she will be coming up and doing some training with the safety committee, and then she'll be a great resource for me to call for help with anything. It'd be really nice. I mean, I have a person that I've talked to all along, Lisa Master, she lives in Joseph, and she's been down several times and done some harassment trainings and other trainings as well, but she's great to work with, so I'm sure this new will be the same. And then the only other thing is we're still in the middle of union negotiations, and hopefully it'll be over soon. That's about all we can say, but we're still in the middle of that, so. Is that all I got?
Thank you so much.
Is that it?
Yep.
Okay.
Appreciate the update.
All right, we have a whole bunch of minutes that need to be approved, but with Commissioner Shellman out. We're a quorum, we can do it, or do you want to put them off one more meeting?
I don't wanna put them off, but if. Are we allowed to revisit something after we've approved it if we need to? I mean, the list gets longer and longer, and if someone hasn't been on it. It gets harder and harder for them to catch up. I know I read every blankety blank one
I
of
mean,
them.
I suppose if somebody had issue with something, we could revisit that
And we
specific, those
We
specific
could
minutes
make
and
it an
amend them.
official agenda item
And amend them,
yeah, let's do that.
okay. Or at least that's how we will do it then.
Yeah, wait, it could go on and on.
Okay, so first up is minutes from county court session on August 7th, 2024.
I move to approve.
Second, motion's been made and seconded to approve county court session minutes from August 7th. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, hearing none, motion carries. Next up is minutes from the library hearing. And are those, I don't recall, are those joined from the first half of
No,
the day and
so
the second half?
the morning hearing is part of the court session.
Okay.
And then the PM, the bulk is that.
Okay. All right, so library public hearing minutes from August 7th.
I move to approve.
Second, motion's been made and seconded to approve library public hearing minutes from August 7th. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed? And hearing none, motion carries. A work session from that same day, August 7th, 2024. County Court work session. I'll make a motion to approve minutes from the Harney County work session on August 7th.
I second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve work session minutes from August 7th. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? And hearing none, motion carries. And then special session, Harney County Court special session minutes from August 9th.
I move to approve.
Second, motion's been made and seconded to approve Harney County special session minutes from August 9th. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and approved, and signify by saying aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Regular county court session on August 21st, 2024.
Move to approve.
Second, motion's been made and seconded to approve county court session from August 21st. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed? And hearing none, motion carries. And minutes from county court special session on August 23rd. I will, if there's no discussion, I will make a motion to approve.
I second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve Harney County Court special session minutes from August 23rd. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed? And hearing none, motion carries.
And I would like to say that those are a lot of minutes. They were well done. The few little things I caught have already been corrected. And they were not substantive, they were minor. And I think they reflect those meetings very well.
I agree. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good job. Next topic up is opportunity for public comment.
I do.
Sir,
Rick Paul. I want to comment on two items. One is the proposal by the city of Burns Urban Renewal. I think the county should discuss it with a lot of other people. A, and B, I think it's against their original proposal was for blighted property, and development property is not blighted. So I think it moves it outside of definition and opens it up for a lot more stuff that will cost us as the county. Second, on the meeting I was at on last Wednesday in Ontario, I did do the testimony to for widening the road for the Brothers Oasis for the sanitary, and on tolling to say that it's an economic burden within this county because in Ontario, there would be onions more expensive than across the River of John in Fruitland as a result of having the extra costs of production. So that's what I did.
thank you for that.
Thank you. And I would definitely agree that news that City of Burns is looking at expanding the Burns Urban Renewal Agency footprint and tax base for whatever is something we all need to look at. Maybe we can put that on our next agenda and we can invite the appropriate person or persons.
Yeah, I agree. I hadn't thought about, and thank you for bringing the point that it was originally for blighted properties. And the additions that they want to add onto it are the Telos development, which is all just vacant land. And the county's industrial zone property, which at this time is vacant as well. We're working on it. And the B Street expansion itself too. So none of those themselves are blighted. They're just empty pieces of property right now that have sagebrush on them. And would fall outside of the blighted property definition. I agree, and I thank you for bringing that up, because that's a good point. I
Do you
The- when this-
attend those meetings or?
I've tried, and they'll be advertised and I'll show up to them and, oh, it's canceled. So I have not had very good success rate at catching them to hear what's going on with the URA meetings.
Okay.
I would propose though this time, I don't know how it was handled last time, but I would presume that it would take a vote from each one of the taxing districts to expand it, much like it was done when it was originally enacted. And I would say from my point of view right now, I'm not gonna vote on anything until I completely understand how this thing works. And I still don't. Every time I get in a conversation with somebody and think I have it figured out, it gets
But
all
it's my
thrown.
understanding that you're on an advisory committee, but you're not on the board that votes. Is that correct?
If
is
I'm
that
on
incorrect?
advisory, I haven't been invited to.
I could be wrong. I just remember when it was all happening and we said, shouldn't you have more than the Burn City Council as the board? They said, well, we'll have an advisory committee, and I thought that's maybe where Burn City Council members, but I could be wrong.
I don't know. I'll have to check into that. If there's a role there that I'm supposed to be playing and not, then I'll
Well,
find out.
yes.
Yes, ma'am. You
Was,
look good.
what was the topic? The Harney County Enterprise Zone?
No,
Okay,
Burns Urban
never
Renewal
mind. I
Agency.
received a letter this morning. I thought maybe I should share it, but that's.
I just think for the record, on this topic, as you can see by the concern of people over potential reductions in funding to our departments, including the public library, and the fact that our revenues are going down, then the Burns Urban Renewal Agency and all those involved need to be aware and need to be concerned about that. And blighted property, this is just my opinion at the moment, unless I, learn something else. That was the intent, and to expand it, because they maybe need to think about the impacts to our county and city of Burns people as well, very much so, on these things that will suffer if our tax base continues to get picked away at.
yeah, and I don't understand, like I said, I've talked with the assessor's office several times on this topic. And every time I think I'm starting to get a grasp of it, it changes, or there's a new nuance or something that gets slid in there that I wasn't discussed the first time, and it affects my understanding.
Well, it
going
almost
forward in.
seems like a representative of each of the special taxing districts or taxing districts need to be part of a board, so that if people are all okay with it, or the majority is okay with it, but if just one entity, the recipient of the benefits, gets to make the call and nobody else has any ability to affect it officially, that's not a good thing.
So that's where I mean though. So before I make a commitment to one way or the other, I need to understand how this thing works and where the funds are going to, how it's going to affect our tax.
I want to
tax
see the
base.
new map,
Yeah.
and maybe we can get a full presentation where they can actually, show things and explain things, and we should have our attorney listen in. County council.
But no, it was just public comment, and there's a move or whatever to expand the urban renewal area in Burns. And that's what the comment was about. But yeah, our enterprise zone is another
I
topic that
just
we're
got this letter this morning, and so I didn't know if that was the same.
Yeah. Coming email this morning.
To,
Okay, I haven't even had a chance to crack my emails this morning.
and I should probably share it with you, so Greg Smith their office reached out to me last week, but they wanted all of the contact information for the different tax districts. So I gave that to them based on what I provide, and so I gave myself as the contact for theirs, but I should probably revise that because this is not my real house.
So if I recall from our last meeting, all the taxing districts that are affected, would be affected, kind of like the URA, would have to be sponsors of the enterprise zone. So that's probably where they're needing that, because they'll have to be at the table when we renew it.
Fancy that. What a nice model. Couple people involved. Part of it.
I'll forward this to you.
All right, thank you. Any other public comment? And hearing none, seeing none, we'll move on. Old business. So the first item under old business was the strategic planning that we had talked about several months ago. And I believe Commissioner Shellman wanted it back on as a discussion topic for today, which is good. We don't want to let it get carried away or forgotten about. I think we can table it and bring it back to the next county court session when Commissioner Shellman is present.
Okay.
And it's a worthwhile project. I mean, for the record, I think it's a worthwhile project that we need to look at, and something, if it's done thoroughly, can help guide the county's future in budgeting and projects and agendas and goals, everything along the way. So I think it's a good thing to have. It'll be a good document to have, not just to set on the shelf, but to use. And I believe in a lot of aspects too, for some grants and whatnot, you have to have some kind of strategic planning done or show that you have it done, so that helps you, maybe boost you up in ratings, or might even be a requirement in some grants. So to have that document for that, and a lot of times too, these kind of documents can serve as a resource document for when you're applying for those grants. You can pretty much copy and paste a lot of the language that's in this kind of planning right into your grant documentation. So it's a good, worthwhile project to pursue. We can discuss it more at the next county court session. In the meantime, though, too, did you, Holly, had you reached out or tried to find some entities to help us with the planning?
I did, Commissioner Shellman said that she had a contact at the High Desert Partnership that might be able to mediate this strategic planning session. And then, the county clerk also let me know that, the Ford Foundation could possibly send somebody, and that this is kind of like what they want counties to use them for, kind of thing. So I was gonna check into that.
Okay. Again, I want to make sure that we have the right people at the table when we start this process, to make sure that we're thinking about and including and seeing the future in that process. So anyway, so other than that, we'll table it and bring it back next county court session. Next topic up is the BEAD grant update. I believe Commissioner Doro, you had you've been involved in most all the broadband stuff, conversations over the last year or so. We didn't get the last grant application that we had the contractor apply for.
We didn't get the first one, which was a technical assistance grant. That was called BTAP, Broadband Technical Assistance Program. Not a whole lot of people got it. It was heavily applied for. We were disappointed we didn't get it. So we quit having paid contractors help us. And I continue to do what I can to be zooming in and attending the variety of broadband meetings. Then the second grant that came out was called BDP, Broadband Deployment Program. That's the one MyWave applied for, and that we did a letter of support. They applied to do some expansion. I believe east of Burns and toward the Buchanan and down that area was one of their proposals. I think they had another proposal. They haven't heard yet if they've gotten that or not. We didn't really contribute anything except our support. In any way we can help with facilitating permitting and things like that, but no money. The big one coming out, Broadband Equity Access and Deployment, BEAD program. That's big bucks, big projects. No internet service providers come forward to apply to help Harney County in that. And again, they've got to make money. They've got to be able to put something in and we just have such low population. It's very hard to, unless the state will incentivize them with that money they got from the feds, which I don't know that how well they're doing that. There's nothing for us to do, except they did encourage, there's a big pre-qualification process for these big grants for these entities that apply for them. And they encouraged even counties to go ahead and try to get pre-qualified according to this feed program document that lays it out so far. There's more to come, more detail to come. And why? Because they said, well, even if you're not applying for BEAD in the future, in the next few years to come, if you have a project or something, maybe smaller that someone can do for your county. If you already as a county are pre-qualified, if you're part of the partnership of getting this done, that'll weigh in your favor. It's a lengthy, complicated process. A lot of the things it requests, we don't have. Maybe it would be more for the ISP to have it than to us, but, Executive Assistant York has been assisting me with this, and there'll be some kind of blank placeholder things that we'll need to, once there's a webinar, I think that's going to have more information. I haven't seen the date. Have you?
Yeah, September 11th.
Okay. We'll sit through that one and see what that looks like. And she's been doing a lot of work on it. And once we have the holes in it, like your county cybersecurity plan or your letter of credit, these various things that we've never had to have before, or that we just haven't developed before, we can decide what the appropriate placeholder is it's in process, or this will be done by the partner ISP, whatever the placeholder. But I really think it's good to get the bare bones work. And I appreciate that.
And you had done some research and work on this last week. If you could bring us up to speed of what you found out.
Yeah, so I planned a Zoom call with Crystal Stone, who works in the Oregon Broadband Office, and I was just really confused. On the agenda, you can see a 163-page packet that goes over the specifics of this grant. There is another link on there that is the checklist, which I think you'd have in the agenda packet as well. These are all complicated documents. You have it in your name right now. So the hardest part is, I said, I don't know what the county needs to provide or what the ISP needs to provide. That is what they're going over on the September 11th meeting, is that list. So I'm at a stalemate because I don't know what is required for us. She said that we had to get pre-qualified in order to, let's say no ISPs come forward, but if the county's pre-qualified, they can send us people, or there's more opportunity for us to pursue the broadband grant. But she told me that I should put an RFP out immediately to try to find a contractor so that they can provide these documents by the time the portal opens up for the pre-qualifications. So I guess I need a direction from the county court to try to put that together. I asked her for a template because I've never written an RFP before, and she said she would send me one.
An RFP for what?
We need to have a contractor to do this work so that they can provide the documents on that checklist.
You can't make some. I sent about 5 emails out to ISPs. I didn't know these people particularly. I got one response back, and then on the last Zoom call, another one from, it was more of a telephone cell service company. He said, on the chat, let me know. And so I then sent it to him, but only one has just said, oh, we'll keep you in mind. They're not biting.
Well, that's what I was instructed to do for Kristen.
So when they say contractor to get these documents together, such as the letter of credit, are they referring to, is it an RFP for an ISP, an internet service provider? Or is it an RFP for a consulting company to help us get this done?
It is
No.
for who will be physically putting the cable into the ground.
The fact is, I am against, I mean, if we have to do an RFP, because that's one checklist and it doesn't cost much to do it, okay, but it'll be a one pager. We're not gonna go through a lengthy, I've got examples of lengthy ones that are almost like contracts. No, but I mean, frankly,
The RFP isn't required for this, but that was her suggestion to me because I told her that this would not be a strong application.
and I copied her and you on those letters introductory emails I sent out to those ISPs. And, I don't know, I just,
Well, if you feel like that's futile, I don't necessarily want to waste county time like trying to figure out how to write one. So, I mean, we could just use those letters if they ask for them. But I just letting everyone know that this application will be very weak because 90% of it, we don't have.
that's fine. That is absolutely fine, Holly. I really appreciate your work on it. We're all learning something, you know, what a letter of credit is and all this stuff that we haven't had to do and we may never do. But, she said, Crystal said the same thing about RFP to me. And again, I copied her on those emails I sent out to the ISPs because I don't really see the point.
Right.
If they know we're out here and if they wanted to bid, they would.
On this topic of the letter of credit, there's a BEAD letter of credit waiver. Have you looked at that?
So the letter of credit waiver is for the ISP or whoever will be doing the work, not the county. And it's just to show that, because I believe this is a reimbursable grant, you have to prove that you will have an institution that's can afford to do it.
Probably 90% of it will be not applicable, blah, 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 not applicable, blah, 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 you know, different phrases and sentences pertinent to each one that we're not.
So the county would be the recipient of these types of grant funds. And
Not
then we would,
usually, not
and then we would contract with,
Not
an
usually, not usually. Usually the ISP is the person putting in for the grant. We are not. This would be something way small. I don't think they know what, I think they realize they're missing the boat on getting internet to counties like ours. Which we should be number one on their list, and we're not. And all the usual Lane County and all these awesome counties that have plenty of stuff compared to us. And have paid really smart, experienced contractors on staff all the time, you know, they get the grants. And this is probably gonna happen again. However, when there's a little something we can do to show we're still hanging in, we're still doing what we can, I'm for it. And I appreciate you having to go through all that, Holly. I absolutely am assuming most of it's gonna be not applicable.
right, is the grant, are these BEAD grants, is this, does it still have an emphasis on rural underserved communities, or is it equal from Multnomah County to Harney County?
That's one factor. It's not the only factor.
You're supposed to, the ISPs are supposed to develop a plan that provides 100% of internet to underserved or not even served communities.
They're not accomplishing their mission, it looks like.
Yeah.
And we'll just keep our little finger in it, showing we're here. You need to help us. We've done what we can.
Okay,
But Holly, thank you for your good work on that.
so moving on, new business, landfill meeting summary. We had a landfill attendant meeting last week, was it last week? Holiday, it's all blurred together. Anyway, I think just about everybody was there. There was one the Fields landfill didn't have a representative present. And I think they might be in a flux between attendance right now.
Okay.
So anyway, everybody else, all the four other landfills attended. I think it was good. We all sat down, kind of, got a little better understanding of budget and how the budget works and how they need to plan ahead for any projects or things that they might need, in their landfill, managing their landfills. Their our landfills, but the local communities have pretty much been left to deal with them. The county is the one though ultimately is on the hook for those licenses and any fines that would have to be paid if things weren't being done right. So that would bring a little bit of structure to that program and invite them in, have the conversation, it's beginning the conversation. We have to, this year, our permits are up for renewal this year. They're 10-year permits and they're up for renewal this year. One of the things that Oregon DEQ wanted us to redo was the landfill plan, which we didn't know we were gonna have to do. And otherwise I would have budgeted for it out of those landfill funds to complete this plan. It's gonna cost about $6,000 roughly, I think, and I've already signed that. We've discussed that in previous county court sessions. But things like that, if we'd have known those kind of things were coming into play, we would have budgeted it, spread it out across all five landfills. But we'll get it done. We'll find the funds for it. And just kind of face to face. A lot of these people were just an email or a phone number, never met. So it was good for everybody to get together and meet.
Yeah.
Holly, you kind of ramrodded it. So beyond what I've said, you have anything else?
I'm still working to collect some of the data that we need for the operation plan. I think the biggest struggle is that we might not have the most tech savvy individuals running the landfills. So trying to get their hours of operation and what they're paying for their services. But everything that I have collected, I've turned in so far to Geologic, so.
Good, thank you.
And then next topic is a resolution. And this is dealing with, as we kind of discussed earlier with the district attorney, the deflection funds. When we first brought these funds in, or in the budget year this year, we just needed to have a place to receipt them in and receipt them out. Not knowing what the parameters were gonna be that those funds were gonna be able to be used for. So we created a revenue line in the general fund under grants. It's Department 15 in the budget. And receipted them in and created an expenditure line under materials and supplies to receipt them out.
Wait, we're talking about a
Or
clerk,
is this
a clerk.
funds due?
I don't-
Condition regarding general fund 101 clerk department. Oh, I'm ahead of myself. I'm talking about, I thought that's what this one was.
No,
Do we have another one? No, I guess that's
I
the
didn't, the
instead.
thing you were talking about, we haven't got on.
Okay, no, there was one coming for that, and I thought that's what this one was, so I didn't even look at it. So this one is in the matter, excuse me, let me back up here. In the matter of appropriating funds
Not
due to
crazy.
unexpected occurrences or conditions in regards to general fund 101 clerk department 003. So the clerk received some unexpected funds in a grant for elections. And that's what this one is.
Do you know what they'll use it for?
Well, it's pretty wide open. You can use it for just about anything as long as it has to do with elections. And I mean, anything. It's almost just like general funds, unobligated. You can spend it on whatever you want to, other than the fact that it has to be some tied to elections. Last year, the clerk wanted to remodel the office in there and create a more secure area for viewing when the public comes in to view the election process. He wanted to build a countertop and a wall that goes back and allows to keep people outside of his actual clerk's office, but created a pathway for people to come in and be able to look through the window and see the counting and process and whatnot. We put it out for a little while and no contractors bid on it. So he's kind of thinking that with his funds here, we will put it out again, and that's what we used to pay for that. So that's what this one is about. After I went through the whole spiel on the deflection funds, that one's coming. That one should be in the next county court session then. So with that description, resolution 2024-28, in the matter of appropriating funds due to unexpected occurrence or condition in regard to general fund 101 clerk department 003. Revenues increased by $20,000. And materials and supplies will increase by $20,000. Revenue in, expenditure out.
Well, I'm glad to hear that we got that. I would move to approve resolution number 2024-28 in the matter of appropriating funds due to unexpected occurrence or condition in regard to General Fund 101, Clerk Department 003, the amount of $20,000 increase to the revenue line and a similar $20,000 increase to the materials and supply line to be used for election-related matters.
I'll make a second. Motion's been made and seconded to approve resolution 2024-28 in the matter of appropriating funds due to unexpected occurrence or condition in regards to General Fund 101, Clerk Department 003, as described. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? And hearing none, motion carries. That brings us to correspondence is up next. I don't have any correspondence.
This says 4th day to September. You want me to just change it?
Yeah, just ink it, it's fine. You have any correspondence to,
No, I have no
Introduce.
correspondence, no.
scheduled meetings? Next county court scheduled meeting will be the 21st, is that right? I'm looking at the
18th.
18th, I'm looking at the wrong calendar day, wrong month.
Okay,
18th, yep, 4/11/18, okay. September 18th,
yes.
Wednesday, the 18th,
Mhm.
Yep.
Let's see. And you have a department head meeting on the 12th, right?
Yep.
A lot of the AOC steering committee meetings are starting back up. I've got 3 on Friday. Transportation, Community Development, Natural Resources and Governance, Revenue and Economic Development. I listen to all that I can. But the 1 o'clock on the 6th is the Governance, Revenue, Economic Development. And that generally tends to be a good one for the judge, I would think.
which day is that?
September 6th. At 1 to 3.
Yeah, I got it on mine.
And then Monday, the 9th, there's 3 more. Starting at 8 o'clock, there's the AOC Health and Human Services, then there's the Public Safety, and then I'm still on the Ledge Committee and that meets at 1. So I'll be zooming in on all of those. Let's see. Do we have a CRT meeting coming up?
Not
On
that
the
I'm aware
10th.
of.
I don't know why I have that penciled in. All right, let's see, there's a Board of Directors and Legislative Retreat for the Association of Oregon Counties. I'm just gonna do it remotely. It's on a Saturday, September 21st, the Ledge one. Community-based water planning, those are stuff Commissioner Shellman does. I have it penciled in something on the 23rd of September. And the Blues Intergovernmental Council, do you attend those, Judge?
I haven't been. I know you and Commissioner. Shelton have.
I really don't find them I'm changing my thinking on all that a lot. Commissioner Shellman goes to those. And then September 30th, Monday, September 30th is AOC District 2 meeting in Lake County. And I would like to ride with you. It goes from 10 to 3. Hope Commissioner Shellman as well, if she can come. Get up early, drive over.
On the 30th.
I think that'd be a great time to bring up the topic. What was the topic earlier that I said? Check with, the CIS stuff.
CIS.
Yeah, and stuff like that. That's a good time for those. It's a smaller group of counties.
Okay.
So that's a bunch of stuff that's kind of coming up.
Yeah, I don't have, yeah, that's all I have on my schedule as well. Pretty much everything you just identified I have in my calendar.
Good. Um,
So meetings, regular county court. General deliberation.
got a bunch.
Yeah.
You want to go first or?
Go ahead.
In no particular order, the upcoming library public hearing, the second one, the 90-day apart meeting, I think we set November 6th. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. At 6:00 PM. Do you think it would be a good idea to do it just like we did the last one and have a convene, open up, start here in the county court meeting and then recess till the evening? That way it's getting dark, it'll be darker, getting darker than some people, who may wanna.
So,
I thought it went well last time. It certainly gave everybody that opportunity.
so my intent on the next one, these are public hearings, which doesn't mean that it's all public comment. The first session, I was pretty much driven by public comment. And then the next session is my intent for us to digest those comments and any research that we've done in that time period. And then for the court to give our position on where we see it.
Could that be worthy of a work session prior to? Or just,
Yeah, we could do a work session before, so that we're, all in line with it, or on the same page, understanding where we want to go with it. We can't make any decisions in a work session or a public hearing. We'd have to do that during a regular county court session. But just to kind of give our findings and what we've discovered or whatever, we could probably make recommendations during that public hearing. That it would be our recommendation to X, Y, and Z, but not be official, like I said, a decision. But I'm not gonna, I don't think it's productive to have another session where everybody's gonna come in and say the same thing they said last time. That's already been said. We've seen it in the newspaper, we've seen it in social media, we've seen it in person. We've received some of them by email, written in email. And it's gonna say the same thing as what they said last time, so I don't think that's a productive use of time. That was informational from the public to us. And then in the next session would be our view on it, our findings.
that's interesting. That could be good. Whatever, I just, at the library advisory board meeting that I attended last week, they just said, do you know when the next hearing is? And I said, I know that it's November 6th. And they said, is it gonna be just in the evening or both? And I said, I don't know, I'll get back to you.
I think, well, with that in mind, if we as a body are just going to give our findings and, where we're at with it or whatever, I don't see a need to say it at 11 o'clock and then say it again at 6 o'clock. So I would probably lean towards just one session, public session
Okay,
at 6 o'clock. So that the
Okay.
majority of the public can
Why
attend
don't
outside of
we,
their work schedules.
and how far ahead of time do you have to advertise?
Statute actually doesn't say anything about when we have to advertise for the second hearing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That sounds fine.
We'll probably do it a couple times in the newspaper leading up to that date. The fresher it is,
Well, and I think that's good because if they hear whatever our thoughts and direction or, and then they can make comments similar and if related to that, if they want, right? Or not.
we could do that. And again, that's, we could have a work session before and decide the parameters of how we want to do this.
Yeah.
This public hearing. if we wanna give, budget analysis and other things that we've researched and found during this 90-day period. And then if there's anything there specific that somebody wants to rebut, I mean, again, I don't think it's productive to hear the same thing over again. But
Yeah.
if it's in specific rebuttal to something that we bring up, that,
Well, at the library advisory board meeting, I was not that pleased to hear them focus toward me on, specific things that they'd heard and were upset about and asking me about, such as, so what was it that Judge Hart, mentioned during the budget committee meetings about there may be some funds after the first of the year to help with an assistant position between treasurer and HR, et cetera. And they were asking, and I said, call Judge Hart if you have questions. He's not shared that with us. And I don't know anything about that, except I heard the same thing you did at the budget meeting. I said, contact Judge Hart if you have questions. Then they said, do elected officials get benefits? And I said, yes. I said, I personally don't take advantage of them, but yes. And they said, well, how can that be if you're part-time? I'm a part-time commissioner, paid at the 0.5 FTE level, because part-time employees don't get that. And of course, the answer is elected officials are compensated via elected official compensation board who does comparables with however they want to, but generally speaking, apples to apples, they look at other counties and how they do it, and they pretty much try to, for the same kind of a job, they try to compensate similarly, and that's considered part of the compensation. Again, there were lots of almost like picking at individual things to come up with the dollars, for avoiding cuts. The same approach we've done for 6 years of always trying to prop things up. Can we move something here? Can we do? So that was part of the conversation, and I can see that that's where that group of people, some of them, were coming from. I encourage them, if they have a specific comment that's been bothering them or they want to find out more, and it's not something that I said, then they should reach out to the county court member who said it. And so I don't know if they will.
and I welcome those conversations. To date, since all this began, I've received one email from a member of the public that asked specific questions.
Right.
Of all the comments, of all the statements, everything, nobody has called me. Nobody's came into the office and asked me. I've received one email from a member of the public with specific questions, which I answered right away and got right back to that individual.
I just wanted to pass that on, that the nature of that conversation sort of surprised me, that's what some of the focus was still on, rather than the picture, not just this year, but the picture moving forward. And it's not just for library, but the hearing is for the library, but it's for our whole budget. All of our payroll, all of our people, all of our departments and our missions, and how we can best achieve at least the minimum accomplishment within our means.
Yeah. So, as far as the comment, and I'll make this public right now, as far as the comment about, after the first of the year, that there might be funds available to help fund the financial assistant, whatever title we're gonna give it, came from the assessor's office. The assessor's office has, well, actually, since budget time, there's a second vacancy in the assessor's office now. But at that time, it wasn't appropriate, I don't think, for me to say anything, because you're dealing with an outgoing assessor and a newly elected assessor that takes office in January. But since then, we've had more conversations, and I believe that everybody's on track, because I didn't want to speak out of turn from somebody. But it is my understanding from the assessor's office that the one vacant position that has become vacant is not going to be refilled right away. They want to see if they can do the work without that position. If they can get the work done and they don't need to refill that position, then that position will be eliminated.
Okay,
The position of the tax collector, the newly elected assessor. That position is not going to be refilled as it is. The newly elected assessor is going to take over as the assessor. And they're gonna realign some duties to take over some of the stuff that she did as the tax collector. So therefore, that position will not be refilled 100%. So there are funds in that department that could potentially come available to help fund us with some of these other topics. But as you mentioned as well too, it's not just a matter of scratching X number of dollars here to re-put it over here. The whole thing that the county is experiencing right now is sustainability. At the current trajectory of what the county is on right now, we cannot sustain the growth in our labor costs. Period.
right.
It's
Right.
gonna end up cutting into operational costs. And then what good does it do when you have 120 employees but no money to drive a vehicle? So it goes deeper than just scratching this position and creating this position. It has everything to do with sustainability and operational needs of the county.
That's right. And yes, thank you. So at the moment, you're thinking that the public meeting would be at 6 PM on November 6th.
Yes.
Prior to that, the county court may end up having a work session for ourselves on.
I hadn't thought about a work session prior, but it sounds like a good idea. We got
Well,
plenty of time to do it.
I don't
and
know how much I have to offer, but I certainly
Yeah.
would like to hear. the
We can look
thinking.
at that further.
Okay,
I'm not opposed to it by any means.
this was just a question. Based on when, Executive Assistant York, asked me about cybersecurity planning related to the pre-qualification. For the broadband stuff. Is that something we have? Any type of a plan for cybersecurity for the county and?
Our IT contractor is supposed to be preparing a cybersecurity plan. It's been paid for. We got grant funds for it, for them to do that. And it's just, I need to follow up with them and see where they're at
Okay.
with it, but
Okay.
it is in the works.
Good. Possibly for the next county court meeting, this is on the topic of some of the housing funding that came out a couple of years ago or was coming out a couple of years ago where every county was supposed to be part of a regionalization or on your own, use some funds to build housing and do things like that. We opted to partner with Malheur County since they have community in action. We have community in action, and they have a much different demographics over there for the population there and their needs. They were wanting the money to actually build housing and shelters and things like that we would not be able to sustain if we got a one-time thing to try to build it. And our homeless population is much lower than theirs. And so the thought was that if money to fund a couple of, at least one, maybe two outreach people who come out here, connect with some of these people that have been sort of identified as homeless, just make sure they're connected to resources here. If they have resources needs beyond what we have here, they can be taken to Malheur County with if they agree to. And given some transitional housing and support that. I think there've been some bumps along the way, but they're doing their project. And I asked Jody Warnock is her name, and I'll send you her contact information, Holly. But she'd be happy to give us a brief on that, zoom in and give us a brief on that. I'd like to hear it as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so
It's been a
that,
while since
Yeah,
we made that agreement and everything.
yeah. Let's see. We received, at the last county court meeting, as well as an email regarding, a gentleman's, question about our American for Disabilities Act access. You're probably reaching out to find out if technically, if our ramp, which is long, et cetera, if it's all within compliance of what's needed. Yes, it is far away. Yes, it's not ideal. Yes, he suggested possibly, having a couple of handicap spaces here in this back lot here, et cetera, like that. So just wanted to mention that we got that communication, and I believe you're working it. Is that
I
correct?
just checked this morning with the facility manager, and he has been, researching to find out what the criteria is for, handicap access. The ideal thing would have been done when they built the Sally Port back here, would have faced it the other direction. And then it would have been an easier ramp to go from the door straight out instead of this long run here. Would have been better and would have allowed for handicap parking in this space out here, which would have been closer. But since the way it is right now, there's no way to construct anything that if you put handicap parking in this area, how are you gonna get, you're gonna have to go all the way around to the ramp there.
Right, and that was my thought as well. I didn't know.
It's a longer travel if you, so what we are researching it.
When this gentleman said, well, there's funds to do that, I don't even know if, I mean, if we have something that's in compliance, that I don't imagine there would be funds. We would need total grant to do anything new.
I did search for grants and there's not much out
There's
there.
not, okay, thank you.
Part of his concern was, and it's unique to his setup and his vehicle. But his mode of carrying his chair, his wheelchair, is from a receiver hitch on the back of his pickup. So when he pulls into a regular handicap parking spot, if the street's right behind the parking spots like ours are along the side over here, then his attachment for his chair basically is still out in the street. We don't really have the mechanism to make the spots any deeper that would allow him to pull in further. So what I did ask the facility manager this morning is to see if we could take those spots, and instead of having them be in the angled parking spots that people normally pull into, if we could take one or two, we'll have to see how many we have to have for our facility, if one suffices. But make them lengthwise, so it runs parallel with the sidewalk. And then the vehicle would be like a parallel park along the sidewalk instead of an angled park. That way the vehicle could pull in, you could exit it, most handicap vehicles exit on the passenger side. You open up like a van, you open a van door and they come out that way. Or it's just somebody that they don't want to park half a mile away, so they're still close enough. In his case, with his chair being on the back of his vehicle, that would get it out of the traffic. And he would be able to maneuver around to the back of his vehicle, get his chair down, and then get onto the sidewalk and up the ramp without having to be a hazard in traffic. So I have asked the facility manager to look at that potential to change the parking position from angle to parallel, basically, in that one spot. And then we'll have to do the appropriate striping and signage and everything to go along with it.
Right. The last thing I had,
There are public parking areas like that. Walmart has them in their places. Costco, several of them have that.
Yeah, and that's kind of
So
where I
it's
got
not-
the idea from, is because I remembered seeing those straight
Right.
parking spots for handicap versus the angled in park. So, yeah,
It's gotta be an ADA approved.
So that's what I'm shooting for with that one anyway. We're working on it. We're trying to make sure that we're,
I didn't reply back to him because the last thing is that I did attend the Oregon Joint Committee on Transportation local leader roundtable, which preceded the public session for the general public. It was held in Ontario on August 28th, began at 2 p.m. Senator Finley is on that committee. He was one of the legislators there. Rep. Owens was also there. Commissioner-elect Rob Frank rode over with Rep. Owens, and Rob sat by me around the round table. It was well attended. There were a lot of people from a lot of the people who actually are heads of road departments and similar types of entities. There was Commissioner Andrus from Union County, myself, Commissioner Joyce. There was the city,
Judge Joyce?
Judge Joyce, I'm sorry, what'd I say?
Commissioner, that's all right.
Judge Joyce was there. I think City of Ontario Mayor was there, but then there was a lot of folks that you know, really work in those departments as well. And it was a good session. Some of just a couple of things that were mentioned. So what they're doing is saying there was a $300 million gap in the operations and maintenance funding for the state highways and roads. And you all probably know that. And, you know, how are we gonna make us healthy again? So they wanted to drive down to what people are willing to live with, as far as additional taxes, fees, and other types of things. But it started out with some general things,
How much was that number again?
350 million.
Million?
Some of the things that were said either by me or by others that I agreed with were, wanted to let them know that the wear and tear on our highways out here is considerable. And I mentioned in Harney County, we don't have an interstate, but that I-84, when it is closed down, and it closes down a lot lately, whether it's fires, whether in the winter, it's that icy patch between Baker and LeGrand, whether it's accidents that close it down. And so we're getting a lot more big trucks and a lot more just regular trucks and cars that come through Highway 20 up toward Bend, and it's affecting our roads. That the recommendation to maybe, or the suggestion to maybe tie whatever gas tax they do to inflation. If inflation goes up, then they're gonna increase the tax. They said, no, people are hurting, and they're gonna be hurting worse if something doesn't change in this country. And out where I am, we have the realities of living in a remote county that doesn't have an interstate, et cetera, is that we are 130 miles in either direction from some of the shopping, some of the medical, some of the market things that we have to do. It's not that we want to put a lot of miles on our car. We have no choice. We have to. So when they're thinking about different formulas and different things, they need to capture the electric vehicles and have them pay their fair share. This time, they don't put fuel in their car. They don't get charged for charging stations that are outside of their own home if they happen to have one at home. And they're every bit of wear and tear those vehicles do, same as gas-powered vehicles. We need equity on that. We need to capture that revenue. The 50-30-20 formula is 50% of the ODOT budget goes for state, 30% to counties, and 20% to cities. And do not change that formula. Do not reduce that county 30%. We need every bit of it because we're partners with ODOT. And when they aren't doing stuff in our county on their state roads, we do what we can, even if it's not official, to keep things safe. But safety is a big problem. And we're all talking with that increased traffic on this Highway 20 and others. Driver behavior, of course, that's what it comes down to. And we might not be able to control that, but the things that are infrastructure related, whether it's additional pullouts and things like that, we need to, this is essential. Safety is right at the top. And then, separate out those huge capital projects, such as the I-5 corridor stuff and the stuff they're doing in Portland, some of their bridges. Take that out of this budget, which is the state transportation fund, is from our gas taxes, right? And that reason they have that big gap is because they're putting it into these big you need to fund those huge capital projects differently than just taking it right out of our operations and maintenance and rest of the state funds. And then those were some highlights, but it was a very good conversation. I'm really glad I went and represented and listened to hear. They didn't commit to anything, on anything. They were there to listen. They've got a few more sessions happening before it's over. I wish they'd have recorded it though. I think, people should be able to watch the conversations because there's a whole lot I'm not covering that might be of interest to one of you, but.
So who was the listening body at the?
Legislators who are on the Joint Committee on Transportation. And they weren't all there, but there was probably about 5 of them there. There were probably a few that weren't there that might have been on some of the other ones.
There was more there when at 5.
I mean, there was a representative who was not on the committee who sat at the table, and Representative Owen sat at the table. They weren't really on it. They were obviously seated there. Maybe there were 6. Plus those 2.
So this was a legislative
This is legislative
Listening.
outreach
listening.
by this committee.
So
So they had both representatives and senators on it.
my concern with it, they're looking for additional funding sources, taxation, whatever that is. I'd like to see some kind of legislation that says that Eastern Oregon is still gonna get its piece of the pie. Cause that's what it comes down to. I mean, I'm hearing rumors, this is just rumor, probably, I don't know, but that they're talking about potentially cutting the state into 3 zones. Eastern Oregon being one of those 3 zones. And when it comes to funding, we're the last one on the list.
At least we make the
I wasn't aware of that, and that was not mentioned in the conversation, and this was sort of an Eastern Oregon kind of a group.
So I think, I mean, from living in other states, our registration fees are pretty low. I mean, I think that's an area that they could increase without hurting. Without making a whole lot of hurt on them. Gas tax, every time you fill up, that hurts. And like you say, the ag industry, just getting product to market, that affects everything. A registration fee, an additional boost in the registration fees, for vehicles.
Now there is
Every couple of
there
years,
is
I
a
mean,
portion of registration fees that I believe local decisions can be made to capture some of that, but you'd have to look into that. I heard someone say that.
so I mean, I guess I don't know for sure what sources they have to go to if registration fees are part of one of those
Well,
pots of money that they can go to for maintenance.
then
Or if
we
it's-
don't do too well there just because we have so few people. If they're dividing that, I just said equity, equality means everybody pays the same, whatever. We're talking equity, as you know what that is. There are some things out here that have to be done. We have many miles of roads and they are very important and they're becoming alternate now almost used on a regular basis for main travel. And I don't think people on the west side might be aware of that. One other thing I said is the area commissions on transportation, SEACT in our case, but these acts, they're not very effective for what we need now. I said, I don't know what the history is of what they originally did and if their role changed, whatever. I don't know the history, but why don't we make them important? Why don't we make them help identify and solve problems? Why don't we make them be a real useful forum? And they just sat there and nodded their heads, but then Sean, is that his name?
Sean Maloney.
Yeah, he came up to me afterward and was saying, oh, that'd be good. So we'll see.
Well, when I first took office, it seemed like there was funds available in different grants and whatnot that the SEACT prioritized and rated and for funding. I don't see that now. The funds aren't there. I don't see that
Well,
now.
that's
So
right.
after that, what are we? what
I
are we
said it
for?
need, and I haven't been in one in a long time, but when I was first on the court, I filled in on a couple of them and I said, we don't just need to have these meetings to go over the STIP. Right?
We aren't even doing that.
I said,
Yeah.
we need to, when the representatives to the act say, we've got safety issues, this is an example of what's happening. How do we solve that? What can we get? I said, if the traffic and safety studies of, that is their protocols, are those still the way to go? Is there a way to make them more efficient and not take so long in the pipeline? Is there more flexibility in things? Because I said, we're here to be safe and move things over the highways and bridges. And we need to be able to not have the old parameters hamstring us if that's what's happening. And so they just kind of nodded their heads like, well, they'll think about it. But who knows? I just know that, I'm glad I went.
The the OCT meeting that I went to last couple months ago was Portland centric. It pretty much focused around Portland. The Business Oregon, it's supposed to be Biz Oregon and AOC, but it predominantly was Biz Oregon this year. Leadership Summit that I attended in Portland earlier this year. Again, Portland centric. The feel is that everything, the money, the dollars are all getting shipped towards Portland. And during that meeting, that Biz Oregon meeting that I went to, the comment was made that Portland, by a speaker. Comment was made that Portland is the economic driver for the rest of the state. I've lived here, well, moved away a number of years, but the whole time that I have physically lived in Harney County, I don't recall one dime ever coming to Harney County because it was stimulated by growth in Portland.
I'm old enough to remember when they did the Winnemucca to the Sea. Of which, if they would have done that, they would have had a 4-lane freeway from Roseburg to Coos Bay, which is the only deep water port on the west coast beyond Sacramento, San Francisco and Seattle. All of this area would have gone through that and not gone through Portland. Because they would have had the container ports there, they would have had the stuff. But in the 60s, they decided not to do that. That's part of their problem today. They're not looking long-term.
Well, and,
And one of the things I suggested, same things you did, they must have thought we were,
oh, did you?
yeah, almost exact same words. But one of the things I suggested was they fund 8 universities and 17 community colleges. They have got a wealth of information intellect there. Why don't you grab some of those kids and have them do a master's program or something on funding, on railroad, on transportation?
There-
Don't try the same old items because they're not working.
That was,
Get something else.
there was an executive from Idaho who was there, and she said that she is the head of the whatever commission on rail transportation in Idaho, and that they are working on some stuff, and they're gonna probably try to move towards some key rail lines for commuters and efficiency and stuff like that. And, is Oregon gonna think about that? There was also a comment about someone who said, I've done research and, Oregon is not good at air freight
Right.
stuff in the state of the Oregon or into and out of, and some of it's because the airports, and then they when we said, like in Burns, they said, they're not capable of a lot of stuff. But you've got the port that gets all crammed up and has challenges, but it's very important. And then you've got your roads, and we need to make sure that things like rail and things like air have their right type of balance in the mix. But again, all that's money, all that's future stuff. But they did say they heard loud and clear that we were saying there's safety issues here. People, accidents are happening and worse accidents are about to happen, and we need to address things. So, anyway, if, I don't know if you're still gonna plan to try to fit one in up at,
Yeah, the
Bend
next
or
one's
not, but-
in Bend on the 12th, I think, something like that.
because, I remember when, our economic development office made it clear, and we learned from the, FedEx, reload facility in Hines, is that we are very strategically located. We just don't have the roads to prove it between Seattle and Salt Lake City and San Francisco and, all these places that are major cities and major centers of commerce. And, but because there's nothing going through here, you get what you get.
Well, thank you both for attending that.
Yeah,
Yeah. It was,
I'm glad you attended, Rick. Thank
well,
you.
I was supposed to have 2 minutes until 5.
Is that it? Just real quick, like, update the, 911 dispatch center. Applied for, has been in negotiations and talks with Motorola, done product research, and everything for their new, dispatch system, CAD, computer aided dispatch. And, they applied for a grant, DOJ, I think it was DOJ grant, for $500,000 for that purpose, and it was awarded. We have received, in July, we received information that we have received, the award. We won't get the funds until probably October or November. But as a process of that, or part of that process, Motorola is the vendor that was chosen for their system. And I've been working with the representative from Motorola and county council on the contract, the purchase and service agreement contract. And we're about ready to sign that. That'll either come up maybe in the next county court session. And I'll get it into the minutes before, or into the agenda packet before, for your commissioner's review. In addition to the $500,000, total cost is, can't remember, $600 and something thousand for hardware, software, and, setup and everything. In addition to the $500,000 in grant funds, each user group, the city of Hinds, the city of Burns, EMS, and the county, all during the previous 911 committee meeting, agreed to pay an additional $15,000 to pay that gap in between, or the what was needed beyond the $500,000. So we've got a 911 committee meeting coming up next week, to make sure that everybody's still on board for that. I budgeted for it in this year's budget for the county, and the cities have both told me that they have as well, and everybody's on board. But before we start executing documentation, I want to make sure that those funds are budgeted for and the other entities are still online.
Good.
So, so that's coming
Is
up.
the tribe part of that, or they?
They're not, we have a separate contract with them through BIA for dispatch services. They don't get, they're not as big a user as Burns Hinds County EMS is. And we have another smaller contract for services with, BLM as well. So those are all different funding revenues that do come in addition to the 911 funds. But, anyway, so that's coming. You should probably see that in the next agenda packet. Yeah, it just, everything becomes a cloud, coordinating different projects and everything, but just continuing on with county business every day, so.
Good, thank you.
Yeah. Any other comment for the record?
Hardy
Discussion?
County Fair
Yes.
and
Hardy County
rodeo.
Fair, 100th Fair. 100th Fair and Rodeo this weekend. Everybody watching, or anybody watching later on, go attend the fair.
It starts, well, some of it starts a little bit today, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that, if there's nothing else, another discussion, nothing else for the record, we shall adjourn at 11:58 AM. Huh?
Good time.
Yeah, right before lunch. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.